Well, welcome to another episode of Dad's Old Car. You might remember John Stokes. He's the man who wrote the Ford book in New Zealand, and I didn't get to talk to him about his family car. So let's join John and we'll talk about his family car. Absolutely. So now, this program's called Dad's Old Car. So tell me what you remember about your father's car when you were growing up.
Well, we didn't have a car. When I was first born, we didn't have a car. We like so many families, our cars were a few and far between. But eventually, we caught the bus. And eventually, my dad bought a Daimler, an old Daimler. He bought it off a chap he was working with. And it was a Daimler Consort. Lovely old car. And it was a 1952 car. But the shape of it was very much 30s style, big mudguards and what have you. And so we careered around in that for many, many years. My dad, we kept that for probably, I'd say it was about 20 years later that he actually finally sold it. But in between he had other cars. So and I really wanted that car, but I never actually managed to get it. I made some attempts to get it, but it never actually happened.
And there wouldn't be too many of that particular style and model in the country anyway, would there?
No. There were a few when they were new, but they very quickly left the roads.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is there anything special about that car that you remember?
Just the smell of it, the leather, the wood grain. Yes. Suicide doors on the front, pre-selected gearbox, which a lot of people mystifies them to this day, but that's like an early form of automatic, where you change gear by selecting
whichever gear you want to go and then hit the clutch.
Hit the gear change pedal, where the clutch should be, it's actually a gear change pedal. So very, very easy to drive. Yeah.
And when did you get to drive it?
Oh, that's a naughty story. Is this program does it allow naughty stories?
Oh, of course it does.
Oh, well, that's okay then. My dad, I wanted him to teach me to drive it. I was about 15 and all my friends were getting cars and licenses and I was a bit of a leftover, and my dad said, no, I'm not teaching you to drive, you're too young and silly. And he actually turned out to be right. We were living in Dunedin at the time, and so my dad got a new job in Wellington, and this was my school certificate year. And so they thought it was probably a very good idea that the children, my two sisters and myself, and stay in Dunedin at the time, and we'd all move up to Wellington later on. So my dad moved up in May, and we didn't move until August. So in the interim, the Daimler was left in the garage, which was convenient for me, and the key was left where it was normally left inside the house. So it all started, I thought, I can drive this car. I've seen it's pre-selected, I can do that. So it started off with moving the car in and out of the garage, and I'd park it over the other side of the road. That's really put it back in there. Yeah, it all works. And then it was school holidays, and I needed to get something from school for a bit of study. I needed a book or something. So I thought, I know what I can do. I can just zoom up in the car. So I went up in the car and I parked it outside the school, St Paul's High School, now Kavanagh College in Dunedin. And I got this book or whatever, and I drove back home. I thought, this driving like is easy. This is so easy. So I ended up driving all over Dunedin, having a jolly good time. Until one day it wasn't so good, because I'd come to an intersection, and it was on a slight slope, and I needed to go off around to the right, and it also went off down to the left. I needed to go up to the right, and so I put the car into first gear, or punched the gear change pedal, hit the gear change pedal, and nothing happened. It just wouldn't. So I tried it again. No, it wouldn't happen. So I drifted down into the intersection, thinking maybe a bit of movement will force it in. So I hit the gear change pedal in first gear. Still nothing. I thought, oh God, now what do I do? And there was a couple of people gathering and a bit of a queue behind. And so anyway, what I did was I put it into reverse, and I thought, oh, there's reverse gear, and I went backwards, poof, into a little Austin A30. And the poor little Austin A30 was looking a bit bruised, and the Daimler was looking relatively unmarked, and the chap out of the A30 discovered that I didn't have a licence, and he just lost his nana, shall we say. He was not really happy, and he didn't have a pen. He asked the crowd that had assembled if anyone's got a pen. Nobody had a pen. So we agreed to go down.
The gods are on your side.
Yeah, so far. and so we agreed that we'd meet elsewhere later on and talk about this. And so anyway, I got into the car and first gear worked. It worked. And so I was very happy about that, and I jumped into I got out of the intersection, and I looked in the rear vision mirror, and the last thing I saw was this guy writing the number plate of my car into the side of his car. And I thought, okay, I put the car back, I got home as fast as I could, closed the garage door, and left it there. The car didn't move again. But as it turns out, this chap lived in the next block, just down and around the corner. It would have taken me 2 minutes to walk to his place. And I remember one night, and it's a funny story really, one night I was going to see my friends. This was months later, not long before we actually moved to Wellington. And I was going to see all my friends in the main street of Dunedin, as you do on a Friday night. And I was zooming across the road in George Street. The traffic was all banked up, and I walked across to get to the other side to meet my friends down the road a little bit further. I was just on my own. I walked in front of this little car, I thought, a little green A30, and I looked and I thought, keep walking, John, keep walking. So I kept walking, and then I heard, oi! And I kept walking. Well, you would have too, wouldn't you? I kept walking. The road was busy. They didn't need me talking to somebody. And so I kept going, and I heard this, oi, again. So there was a little mall, and I just went into the mall, and that was the end of that.
Wow.
So I was very lucky,
yeah.
But the poor chap in his little A30 wasn't so lucky.
So what
So
happened?
if that was you, if you're watching, I'm sorry.
Fair enough. So what happened to the Daimler in the end, you know?
Well, yes. Well, I put it back in the garage. The bumper was just slightly out of angle, but there was no damage on the car. For years and years, it was a family car. Well, it wasn't a family car, it was a second car, if you like. But my mum didn't drive, so it was largely just parked up, and my dad had a new Falcon and a Zephyr earlier than that. So the Daimler was not used that much. And then I went off overseas, as you do, and I was coming back to New Zealand, and I rang him up and I said, Dad, I'd like to buy the Daimler. I'm going to need a car when I get to Auckland. And he said, no, it'll cost you a lot of money. And I said, no, that's my problem, not yours. And so anyway, I said, oh, I'm not happy about it. So I got back to New Zealand a couple of weeks later, and he'd sold it.
Oh, okay.
And I do know what happened to it, but it's a sad story.
Oh, okay.
So we won't go there.
No.
Because there's nothing worse than a grown man crying on TV.
Well, there you go, folks. There's the web page. Get hold of John, or go to one of the major bookstores and you can order it. And John, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to meet you. It's been wonderful.
Excellent. Great stories. Next up is Rhonda, and she's a rock and roll girl. And the association with classic cars, rock and roll, it all comes together. So let's have a chat to Rhonda. With me is Rhonda, and do you own a car, Rhonda?
No, unfortunately I don't. I am in the scene for about 15 years, and I just dress up in rockabilly.
This was back in the 50s. They
Yes.
had petticoat after petticoat, and, and when you rocked and rolled, you sort of spun around and it all sort of sounded like, you know, so you had
Flies up.
matching knickers for the outfit, you know, so
Yes.
don't embarrass yourself too much. And the rock and roll outfit, Naughty, tell me about what's special about this. Where does this come from?
So I buy most of my stuff online. So I buy it like on Facebook and get different outfits, and you just buy and sell stuff.
Oh.
So like this, my skirt, that would have, it's about $150. And then you've got your petticoats, and then you've got tops, and then you do your hair, and
So you enjoy yourself. You enjoy doing this.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, what do you remember about your family car? Our program's called Dad's Old Car, or mothers or grandmothers, or.
Well, we lived on farms, so we didn't really have hollowed up cars, but my dad used to have a Ford Cortina Mark IV.
A Mark IV Cortina.
Yes.
That's flash.
And the two-tone. So we used that.
My ex-father-in-law had, that was his last car. He went from a little Mori 8 then to a Zephyr Consul, the Ford Consul.
Yeah.
And then he got this Mark IV. That was just the flashiest thing on two wheels when he got that, or four wheels, I mean. And they thoroughly enjoyed this Cortina. Yeah. And how many in your family did get in this thing?
There was 3 brothers and myself.
Oh, so 3 in the back, mum and dad in the front, and off you went.
Yep. We were farmers, so we were out in the back. We'd go to town maybe once a month.
So how did you get to school? The school bus?
School bus, we'd ride to on our bikes. It would take us about 15 to 20 minutes on our bikes
to get to the bus
to
stop.
Get to the bus stop. Then the bus will pick us up, and it takes us about an hour and a half for us to get to school.
Good God.
Yeah.
So your farm must have been way out in the what? Whereabouts was it?
Have you heard of Pukahina?
Yes,
Pukahina is out past Tupuki towards Wakatani.
Yeah, I think I have heard of that. Yeah.
There's quite a few little areas around there, like Pukahina, Pongakawa, and we shifted around.
Pukahina, there was a man out there, I just forget his name, but he had a GMC truck, and it was a very unique truck in that he had 3 people that sit in it. It was really only made for 2, so he chopped it in half and welded in this much so he could fit 3 people in it. And while it was that wide, he thought, I'll pull that little engine out and we'll put a V8 in it, which is what he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, he was from out that way. You didn't know Stan Williamson, he was a truck driver from that area as well. But anyway, so through school and the old V8. So what was your first car? Did you own a car?
Yes, I had a Mini.
A little Mini?
Yeah.
A little pull string door opener or a bit later?
That was the ones that the windows slided across.
Oh, okay, so they didn't wind them down.
Nah, they slid across. Yeah, that was my little Mini, and someone put a manual in it.
Oh.
So I'd go up and down our road, and people would tell us to get off their road.
It doesn't take up much room. So how many people did you get it? Because there used to be competitions about how many people you could fit in a Mini.
Well, my brother actually had a Bambina.
Which is even smaller still.
And they had a sunroof, and they would put them out the sunroof and everywhere. They got about 6 or 7 in that Bambina.
Really?
Yeah.
I got a sneaky feeling that the number of people you get fit into a Mini was something like about 10 or 12. They were all lying on top of each other and hanging out, but they all got in it, and then you had to drive it, 50 metres or something. Yeah. No, those Minis, they were great fun.
Yeah.
So what do you drive now?
A Mitsubishi Colt. It is only in my drive car to get to work and back.
Fair enough.
Yeah, but other than that.
So I hear you're in some competition with your outfit.
Yes, so come the 12th of March, I'm in the Franklin Thunder competition for the girls. We get up on stage, we do 3 things. We go and do a photo rama, and that's with about 6 or 7 cars, and there's people come and take our photos on that. And then we get up and do a swimsuit flight one, and then we get into another outfit, and then we get crowned, whoever wins.
Oh, okay. That's a big event. You win money for that?
Just sponsorship. People give you vouchers and
T-shirts.
Yeah, so there's 9 of us.
Oh, wow.
And we had to all put our photos in to see who was going to get in, and I got in.
Oh, well done. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Good on you, Rhonda. Well, there you go, folks. Rhonda's story, isn't that fabulous? Now let's join Roseanne. I bumped into Roseanne while she was just walking along, and she's a member of the steampunk team. With me is Roseanne, and Roseanne, you're just wandering around the
I am.
Kumeu car show like everybody else. And I got to say,
we do have a car on display here as well.
Oh, have you? Which
yes.
one?
Little steampunk car that just trotted past you
I
before.
saw it before.
Yes,
and that's just gorgeous.
Yes. Husband made it. So, yeah,
So steampunk is actually sort of coming alive in New Zealand.
very much so.
Did that start off in England?
I believe so, yeah, because it's the origin of it. I haven't got too much into the history of it, but I just enjoy the costuming side of it. But, yeah, the fashion.
Good
so,
on you.
Yeah.
Now our show is called Dad's Old Car. Do you remember, or Mum's Old Car, or Grandma's Old Car? Do you remember a story from your family days?
I do. I don't have a huge memory of the cars prior to this, but my dad many years ago bought my mum a brand new Datsun Sunny 180B, and he told the yard that it was a special gift for his wife. You know, she'd never had a brand new car, and so he organised for when she went to pick it up. Well, she didn't know he'd organised going to buy a new car, and when they turned up at the yard, there in the front of the yard, in this beautiful sort of the red car that your colour used to have back in the 80s, was this car with this massive golden bow that he had arranged to be put on it. So the whole car had a bow from bonnet to sides and everything else.
Wow.
A big bow on the bonnet, big bow on the roof, and she drove it the whole way home like that.
Bow and all.
Yeah, bow and all. She was so proud of it. Yeah, and it was awesome. Yeah. So,
Good on you. Well, there you go, folks. What a great memory of the family car.
yeah, and on a side note, driving home, Dad was in the van in front and Mum and I were in the car behind. And coming on the Dairy Flat straight roads there, something ran across the road, so Dad braked.
Oh.
And when Mum braked and she slid off the road, Mum and I slid off the road in a brand new car. He continued driving. So it was an interesting voyage home.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Love your outfit.
Thank you.
And enjoy the show.
Thank you very
There you
much.
go, folks. Awesome.
Thank you.
Next up, we talk to Shona, who has a pink prefect. So let's have a chat to Shona. So what inspired you to buy this car?
I just had a vision,
Oh, okay.
and the vision was to make something that was mine, and I wanted something that other people could relate to as well. And I made it for me with the pink and the white because they're my colours. And when other people see it, I hear so many stories of how many people have learned to drive in one. The little kids, how many kids they got across the back. I mean, they had like 6 kids in those things across the back. I thought, how did you do that?
Exactly. How did they do that? Yes. I got my licence in one of those. My uncle had one of those when we went into the police station. Actually, I don't know how. Licence in those days, the cop didn't even come with me. He just said, go up the hill, turn left, come back, park. And I went up by myself. And when I got back, I was sitting there for another 20 minutes. Oh, there you are. Here's your licence, and you're going to want a motorbike sooner or later, so here's that as well.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, not like these days, is it? You've got to learn his licence for 6 years. Or
I know, it takes forever to get a licence. You don't just drive around the block and you're done. It's like, you've got to do this, that and everything else to get it.
I think we should go and have a look at your car.
Yeah, we should.
Yes, let's go and have a look at this.
Definitely have a look.
Well, we've arrived at your prefect, and as you said, it's pink and white.
Yes.
And even the inside of the little V there is all pink. Did somebody paint this for you?
Yes, I had a good friend of mine called Briggsy Briggs, and he did all the paint job on her for me. The paint's actually off my old race car because I used to race at Waihi Beach, and it was an all pink car, and this was the pink that's on here. And I had a little bit left over, and I says, can you put it on my prefect? He says, of course I can. And yeah, so Peggy Sue was born.
Can we have a look at the engine? Is that hard to do? I mean, I know that goes that way, it doesn't go up.
Do you know where the catch is?
It's just in the bottom. Is it on the front, on the side, or you just bang it?
No, it's actually in the glove box.
Oh, really?
I will go around and open it for you.
I didn't see that coming.
No, I'll get it for you. Reach right in and open it. There's a trick to that, and it's so funny watching the guys. You tell them to pop the bonnet for you and they can't find the gadget to pop it. And I sit there going, oh, keep looking.
And we lift that forward and it just stays there, no problem at all. And there it is. That looks quite a little, sort of a perky little motor, that. What did you say it was 17?
It's a 998 overhead valve motor.
So it's not quite 1,000cc.
Not quite 1,000cc.
One we looked at the other day was 1,100 and something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, that's amazing. And it's just a special horn.
Yeah, it's the old klaxon. I've got twin klaxons, so people can hear me before they see me.
Good, and you know how to change the oil and
Yeah, the guys have been teaching me all of that, and
okay.
she's due for an oil change, so we're doing all that with the filter soon. So I like to learn. Like, I don't know a lot about getting into the engine, but when the guys teach me, I can do my own oil. I can check my own oil and my water and all that.
Oh, that's it.
Yeah, something goes wrong, I know where to find it. I had one little wire come off and one of my gauges wasn't working. I just went straight in there. Oh, there's the problem. Plugged it in, and away she went.
Wow.
So yeah, no worries to work on it. It's so easy.
Very, very tidy.
Thank you.
Close that. Let's have a look at the rest of it.
I like the way you're looking around to make sure nobody sees you get in a pink car.
So there's Betty Boop on your mats.
Yes.
And why Betty Boop? I mean, she was sort of, she did her thing in the 1930s, I think, in the movies. She was,
Yeah, she's always been my idol. She's been my idol for years.
Really?
She was named in 1935, I think it was, as the most sexiest cartoon out. And I thought, I've got to have her. And she makes me feel special. I've even got the tattoo.
I watched a program put out by Ford when they started making these.
Yeah.
And it was all the good things about what this car could do. And the last was they got 6 people in this. So there was 2 people in the, one each side, and there were 4 people in the back.
Yes.
3 adults and a teenage girl. And how the hell they ever sort of went for 100 miles with 6 people in the bloody thing, I don't know.
They crawl up the hills doing it. I'll tell you, I had 4 girls in this one day, and we were just like crawling up the hill. I thought we were going to stop.
Oh, really? Oh, wow.
I said to the girls, you're going to have to get out and push if it carries on.
And we just come to the back here, and there's a reasonable amount of room in that boot.
There is.
Yeah, and you see you've got the famous Betty Boop on the boot. So somebody following you along will sort of be entertained by her sort of.
Yeah, well, we've got the bobblehead as well, so she entertains them as well.
Sort of Betty Boop.
It's like, I'm here.
Yeah, and there she is on this side.
Yep.
Yeah, so tell me about this beach hop. Did you win some prizes?
Yeah, I've been to every beach hop since it started, since it was just a basic rock and roll festival.
With this?
No, I've had her for only 5 years.
Oh, okay.
She's been like my little labour of love. I'm still doing her up, as you've seen. The engine bay needs a bit more work.
Yeah.
But Beach Hop, November last year, she got into the top 20 elite Fords. And I couldn't believe it. I was just like, wow.
So do you get a little plaque or something?
I got a beautiful certificate and everything. And it's sitting at home. I was going to bring it today, and I thought, oh no, I don't need it. So but I was not expecting it. To be in the top 20 was an honour.
Wow.
And a privilege, and I couldn't believe it. So
Well, I'm in only just.
I just put it back down.
So I can drive this.
So you can turn it on and start the heater.
I can drive this, but I wouldn't want to go too far in it. But anyway, got
Go on,
pair
I
of
dare ya.
sunglasses here. Come with this me. Put them back before somebody sees me. Marvellous. Last thing we need to do is hear those klaxons.
It's only 11.
Wow.
So it means a lot to see him.
Well, it's certainly got the wow factor, I'll say, so good on you.
Thank you so much.
No, you enjoy this. So there you go, folks, the prefect lady. And finally, I have a chat to Ken, who's the organiser of the Kumeu event, about his first car. What was your first car?
My first car, believe it or not, when I was at school.
You bought a car while you were at school?
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, that's what you do.
Really?
and everybody went, oh my God. And it was an old Jag.
Jag?
Yeah. And it was the old 58 Jag, I think it was. Had the twin fuel tanks in the back and all this. And mate, she was a lady killer, right? Like, God, this guy's got a Jag, you know? And I didn't care, I'm in the cars, not anything else. So anyway, yeah, I'm into cars and that. And like you watch this in the background, Kumeu, you'll see a tank because you can, you know.
You'd be surprised how many people have got a tank
I know,
in New Zealand.
I know, lots.
Yeah, lots.
And you go,
And this is a very popular one.
yeah.
Nice blonde driving. And you're about 6 feet apart when you sit in these things.
Yeah, so, my God, there's a tank. So, of course we can. Yeah, so you wouldn't see that every day, even though a lot of people got tanks.
Yeah, so we were interviewing a guy who had a truck. And blah, 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 blah. And he says, I've got something else in this other shed I'd like to see. Yeah, so in the shed we go, and it's
Bloody big one.
Yeah.
Oh, was that in the South Island?
Yeah, Christchurch, yeah.
Yeah, I know the guy.
Yeah.
And there's another guy.
Jared Daldry, yeah.
Well, there's a place where you can go and I think it's called Old Bastards, you know, enjoying themselves, and they've got about 3 tanks. There's a guy up the road who's got 2 tanks, you know, and I went, really? And he's just my neighbour almost, you know.
There's a bloke called Evan Birchfield, and he lives in Ross. He's a gold miner.
Yes.
And he's got these 2 huge tanks that he gets out at Guy Fawkes, loads them up and fires the blanks off, and everybody goes down and enjoy. But he wanted Linda and I, he's going to take one on the beach, put a live shell in it, and he wanted us to film this thing, sit back on its asses and fire this round.
Sure.
And I said, if you do that, there's going to be some poor bloody yachty coming.
What the hell?
But as I said, tanks are everywhere.
Look, you made a mistake there, mate. There's no poor yachties. They could buy 10 cars for their one yacht. Or they need one of these cars to tow the yacht if it's sort of, no, there's no poor yachty.
Nice. One thing I notice here again is the lack of Humber 80s. I haven't seen one.
Well,
Baby Austins.
I had a Humber 80 and we wrecked it because, we just like, why not?
Yeah.
And it's just that what's happened is that, believe it or not, they're starting to come out. Like last year you wouldn't have seen an angler. Well, now you see a couple of anglers in the paddock and Cortinas, and then you'd have like there's probably half a dozen Cortinas now. So and Tiranas and all that, and Humber 80s, they do come in because they're a classic. Believe it or not, I think that some TV watcher will turn around and say he's wrong, you know, and of course that's going to cause controversy. They were a copy of a Chev.
Really?
Yeah, and it's the same as the Vauxhalls. They copied the Chevs and all that.
I can imagine Vauxhall or GM.
Yeah, well that's right, and they made them smaller and all that, you know. And if you see that, I don't know what Vauxhall they call it, they had one of those with the windscreen went down and you banged your knee on it getting out of the car. Well, what they did is those were a copy of a 56 or 57 Chevy, you know. It's just shortened and all that. And it's the same thing all around the place, you know. You can see some sort of likeness in it.
Anyway, good on you.
Hey, it's really nice meeting you, and we didn't talk much about cars, we talked about everything else. That's all right.
Excellent.
That's what you do.
That's what you do.